Hey, it's Colleen Bain from CertifiedBrainTrainer.com, and I'm here to create some short videos to answer some of the top questions about what is a student transformation specialist and about the program in general. And I already did like the first question before, which was what is the student transformation specialist? But I needed to follow up on that with another short video because the underlying information about what an STS really is all based on brain training. So you really need to have a good understanding and idea of what brain training is about. And just to sort of keep it in layman's terms for right now, and all of this obviously you learn in the STS program, is brain training is now it's all based on what's called the theory of neuroplasticity, but it's now one of the up and coming leading ways based on scientific research to be able to change a child's brain or anyone's brain, but for our discussion purposes, we're dealing with children ages 6 to 18. So we can now help children change their brains to rewire them. And what's important about that is for a child right now that's having processing difficulties, we can help them create new roadways in a sense. I have tons of metaphors that I usually use to try and describe what I'm talking about, which I'll get into in a minute. But you have a couple of phases in the brain training. So what happens is a child will usually come to you, through parent or teacher. You'll assess their cognitive skills, which is the group about 6 or 7 domains of skill sets that everybody needs to be able to learn. So these are underlying skills before you even hit the academic skills needed. So for example, like within reading, you have academic skills necessary around vocabulary, around like literary awareness, language skills, things like that. Before you can even get into comprehension of reading, you have to be able to ensure the child has cognitive skills to be able to read. So in order for the reading specialists, the reading teachers to reach that child, to teach them how to read, they need certain skill sets. So we're talking about like levels way below that the teachers are usually even going in to strengthen. And that's what we do. So we can identify the 6 to 7 domains needed for learning across the entire curriculum. And we'll go in and strengthen not only the weak skills, but even the stronger skills. So everything is brought to an even level as much as possible, and then the child gets springboarded from there. So you're working with objective and subjective data. So what this means at the end of the day is like a child that would come in with a weak skill set for reading, unable to process information well enough, or doesn't have good memory skill sets, weak attention skill sets. Well, now you've strengthened those skill sets. And in doing so, the manner and the methodology that we use in order to strengthen those skill sets has allowed the child's brain to do a couple different things. It has allowed the child's brain to create new pathways that weren't there. It has allowed the child's brain to strengthen the existing connections in the brain. And it has allowed the child's brain to create different or additional kind of branches off of the existing pathways that were there. So to get a little bit deeper into the brain kind of explanation is what's going on inside of our brains is the way that we communicate and send messages, like processing of the brain really, is through an electrical mode. And we have nerve cells, which are called neurons, and our neurons will send electricity from one neuron cell to the other. They never really touch. They don't necessarily come together and touch. There's always this little gap. And in order for the message to go from one hand, one here from one part of your brain over to the other part, we need to have a chemical release inside of here in this area, which sort of creates like a bridge. So what happens with the brain training is that we not only create more of pathways for these neurons to send messages, but we strengthen by adding more branches on the neuron ends so that we can make a lot more stronger capture of the signals, like a big, stronger bridge. Many more pathways, in a sense, at the end of these neurons that can be used and remembered by the nerve cell. So instead of having just one little branch on the end, trying to get to one branch on the end, we will help create many branches. We will help create more pathways overall, including in some instances, we can actually do the neurogenesis, which is more of the brain cells themselves are being created. And then with the existing pathways, so let's say if we had existing pathways already, what we'll be doing to help the child is to sort of clear it out. So if there was any kind of blockages there, maybe that they weren't really that strong and they might have been weaker or old or there for a while, well, we're going to help clean them up so they can be used again. And then the end result is that the child has much faster processing, much better memory, and the other skill sets that you work upon that you'll learn more about are auditory and visual processing and memory, attention skills, logic and reasoning, the ability to actually decode and read and spell, and a bunch more that are like so many subsets of just the main domains. So it's a very exciting field to be into, because if you have a passion at all for teaching and helping kids, this will be a very rewarding field. It has been nothing less than outstanding for me. I obviously started this because of my daughter, which you would have read about on the websites that I have. But to be able to see my daughter begin to learn again, and then be able to see the changes it's made with all the students that I've had, the honor of working with, has been a wonderful experience and a wonderful blessing in my life. And if you have any kind of passion around teaching and you're really doing what you're doing to make a difference, whether you're a mom or if you're a professional, if you're a speech pathologist or OT or PT, and you're there because you want to make the difference and help this child have a good life, getting into the brain training is going to be very, very rewarding. And then the other big part of being the student transformation specialist, or the STS that I would call it, is beyond just doing and sort of laying out that basic, very important though, cognitive foundation, is that we then remediate and we also do transformation pieces. So if you didn't watch the other video, the remediation, the training goes first for brain training, and then the remediation falls under the teaching part. And what happens there is, if a child comes to you via teacher, therapist, parent, and the main complaint is, let's say, like math, child can't remember their addition or their multiplication tables, then you're able to get in there and make a difference. You'll be able to see the child be able to do what they weren't able to do before. And then the transformation piece, again, is the full integration between home and school. So you would have already created a project, you've already got goals, you've got objectives, you've got an entire system with blueprint process, everything that you need to follow to ensure success and to make sure everybody's on the same page and we're all seeing the same goals accomplished at the same time. And then you're also able to leave the family with next steps, so they know if they have the option to stay and work with you in these certain areas you specialize in, or you'll be recommending and referring out to people that you trust, that you know will be a good fit for the child. So I know this video ran over a little bit, but the brain training does take a little bit more to sort of explain and help you understand what this whole program is really based upon and why it's such an important piece for every child to not only get tested, but to be going through these brain training programs to give them the edge, or to give them the ability to now learn where they weren't able to learn before, or just to keep up on their skill set. It's definitely a wonderful, wonderful opportunity for those that are very much involved and have that passion for wanting to make that change and helping students be able to learn where they weren't able to learn before, and to give them a second chance at life. So I hope that you found this very helpful. And then just watch for the next videos coming out that'll be published shortly. Thanks so much. Take care. Colleen from CertifiedBrainTrainer.com.